Hey y'all, it's Laura and welcome to my Purge Your Stash series. Now to begin, we are going to be talking about a couple of tips and tricks that I'm going to put at the beginning of each and every video in this series to help you work through your stash, because I don't know where you're going to find this series. Are you going to find it in the middle, at the end? Either way, you'll have all the tips every single time. So the very first tip that I have is to evaluate your space. So you're going to look at what you have storage-wise now and really think about if it's working for you. Is it accessible to you? Is it appealing to you? Do you want to go and dig through those bits and pieces that you have and the way that you have them currently organized? If that answer is no, then it's time to find a new system. Maybe do a little bit of research online and find new options for yourself that do appeal to you, things that you find exciting and interesting, and that's the way you want to go. Now, also in evaluating your space, you want to consider whether or not you're finding things easily. So is it fairly easy to go put your hands on what you need right now? Because if it's not, then your system isn't working. And that is another little layer of where you want to begin right now. Just look around what you have, make a list if you need to of ideas of things you'd rather use for organization. Really break down what is or is not working about your space. Secondly, we're going to define our space. So we're going to decide how much of our space are we going to devote to each individual thing. So for example, single sheets of paper. How many cubes in your cube shelf are you going to devote to single sheets of paper? Do you have a whole cabinet that you're devoting to single sheets of paper? Do you have a bin like this one to devote to single sheets of paper? That needs to be a very defined space, and that will give you a natural boundary and keep you from trying to hold on to everything. By defining that space, you will know that you have a limit. And another way you can define that space and create those limits is to create a time period limit. So this is looking at your stash and realistically asking yourself, how many pieces of paper can I use in, say, a year, 5 years, 10 years? Whatever age limit you want to put on your stash, you certainly can. And especially if you're trying to pare things down a lot. So if you really need to purge your stash in a big way, that's a great way to do it, is to give yourself a realistic timeline. How much can I use in this period of time? And that way you're not holding on to so much that you get overwhelmed every single time you sit down to scrap. The third tip is to work small and smart. And what that means is we're going to be separating things into small sections. We're not going to take all of one thing and try to make decisions on it at one time, because we will get overwhelmed, we will make a giant mess, and we will not want to continue the project of purging our stash. So I would encourage you to use one supply at a time, decide where you want to start, focus on those things, and then move on. So when we're going through the process, we're going to be creating 3 piles. We're going to have a yes pile. We're going to have a maybe pile. We're going to have a no pile. And a really important element here is that when things go in the no pile, they're gone. They don't live at your house anymore. We're not touching them again. Once it hits that no pile, it's done. Its life in your life is over. You're separating yourselves from that stack. So pretend that stack is gone. You may want to put that stack in a box that's a little bit out of sight so you're not tempted to dig through there and try to find supposed gems, because I promise you, if it was a gem, you would have put it in the yes pile. Along the vein of those piles, you want to make these decisions very quickly. You do not want to sit and think and mull over every single piece of paper, okay? Give it a quick scan. If you want to play with it right now, if it's exciting to you, or if it's something you know you'll use, put it in that yes pile. Or for the maybe pile, I would put things that you're like, I think I could use this, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite thing. I'm pretty sure I could use it, but I don't think it's my favorite thing. I'd put that in the maybe pile. And if it's a no, those are things that are no longer your style. They are things that just don't appeal to you in the moment. You're not scrapping that sort of thing anymore. Let me give you an example. If you used to scrap a lot of pictures of your kids going to school, so you have a lot of school collections, but let's say your kids are done with school, those collections are not that helpful to you anymore. They can go in a no pile. And that's a pretty safe way to sort out your piles. Now, another thing to keep in mind when you're making those no piles is you need to decide, am I gonna keep doubles So either yes or no, because sometimes that's a really quick and easy way to make a yes pile a little bit smaller is by taking those doubles and moving them to the no pile. I know that's hard because if we bought more than one of a sheet of paper or a pair of stickers, there was a reason. We loved it. The next thing I would say is, are you going to put an age limit on your stash? So is there a group of things that you bought 20 years ago but have not used? You've bought 10 years ago, but you have not touched. You need to really think hard about whether or not you're going to put an age limit on your stash, and if those things haven't gotten used in that amount of time, are you realistically going to use them? So ask yourself those hard questions before you start. Separate into 3 piles and then stick to your decisions. That maybe pile is going to just go into your yes pile if you have room and your no pile if you don't. So make sure those are quick and hard and fast decisions. Those are decisions you're going to stick by. And that is how we're going to purge our stash. Now let's head over to the desk and I'll show you what supply we are working with today. So as you might be able to tell, we are going to be looking at wood veneer and cork today in my Purge Your Stash series. And yes, even after I've moved, I fully intend to finish purging my stash. This is a process that I generally undertake every few years, just to kind of go through my stash and get rid of things that I don't really think that I'm going to use, or at least not use in an appropriate amount of time. These things are just going to hang around for a while, and I don't have a lot of space anymore. I am a very limited space now, and I want to make sure that what I keep are things that I love and that I am excited to use. And wood veneer in particular is something that I fell in love with about, oh gosh, 7-8 years ago, something like that. And bought a bunch of it, got a lot of it in kits, got a lot of it for really cheap in grab bags and in discount stores. And I really don't use it anymore, not very much. And so I have decided to go ahead and be kind of brutal with this purge. And that may hurt some of you. And I understand that it may hurt some of you, but I want you to think about your space as a place for your collection to live. This is a collection of supplies. It's not just a warehouse of whatever you could find. This is a cultivated and curated collection. And so I want to make sure that I am only devoting space to the things that I truly love. And so that is what we are working on today. So let me move some of this aside. I'm going to do the cork in just a minute. But having a look at the wood veneer, I've decided some rules for myself ahead of time. And this does help quite a bit in your process in making rules for yourself. For me, generally, I try to make this a quick process. I try to make this a fast and easy process. It doesn't always work that way, but I do try. Okay, so just getting started with a small stack is a good place to begin. So try not to overwhelm yourself. As you saw, I had 3 of these large containers with wood veneer, and I'm not trying to do all 3 at one time. That's not something that I'm going to be able to do. It's not a feasible option for me with my limited space here and with just my limited attention span. So one of the rules that I've made for myself with this process, just specifically with wood veneer, is that if it is super thick wood veneer, which I can tell you there are a couple of brands I'm aware of being super thick. One of which is Hip Kit Club, tends to be super thick. And I think that's largely just because they're trying to make sure that the quality is there so that it won't split, it won't break apart super easily, which I appreciate. But for me, using this super thick wood veneer on my layouts is just not something that I do much of anymore. So I'm probably gonna pull those out. And like these buttons, I'm not a huge fan of buttons anyway, but these are just super, super thick. And for me, kind of hard to use on layout. So I'm going to set those aside. I have a couple of packs that I don't know where they came from. They don't have any sort of labeling on them. May have been from a small shop somewhere. I'm not sure, but this one, again, you can see just how super thick that is. That's going to add a lot of bulk to the layout. It's going to make the album extremely heavy. It's also going to make the layout itself feel kind of lumpy when it's pushed together with the others, and so it can cause some damage to layouts. I have found that in some of my older layouts as well, so I'm going to let that go. And we're just going to kind of make our way through. Now the Heidi Swap, I'm trying to show you how thick. The Heidi Swap is fairly thick as well, and so I'll kind of have to take that on a piece-by-piece basis on whether or not I think I'll actually use it. I think the ones inside of these little packs are a bit thinner, but they're still fairly thick. Like they're still a good 1/8 inch thick. And so I think I'm gonna pull aside the words and have a look at those individually so I can see how many do I have to pick from. This one kills me because I love this. I think it's really fun. A lot of beautiful painted wood veneer, but again, it's that Hip Kit Club, which is super, super thick, and that's just not something that's gonna work for me. I'm gonna let it go. Same here, I've got some lovely leaves and more of the numbers, more leaves. These were all from grab bags, and more of these lovely buttons. And this is the one that really kills me. I love frames, but again, they're just so super thick that that's not gonna work for my scrapbooking. So one of the companies I do know that does a pretty good job with thin wood veneer is Felicity Jane. And so I can pretty quickly pull those out. I don't have very many. There's another one here. I know that these are going to be pretty good size. They're not super thick. They're going to be a little easier to use. I'm going to put those into keep automatically. Again, I'm going to collect all these words over here. The L's Studio ones, I just saw a pack of those here. These are nice and thin as well. I think my favorite wood veneer company at the moment is Color Cast Designs. Their wood veneer is so thin and I absolutely love it. I'm looking through and I don't even think I have any at the moment because that's the one I go to. That's the one that I reach for. These Hello Sunshines, I don't think I'm gonna reach for. Not really appealing to me right now. The words are the ones that kind of catch my eye and I think, oh, I like that. I really like the way that looks. This Freckled Fawn set, I'm pretty sure I have about 5 sets of these. And so another rule that you can set for yourself that can make this process a little quicker and easier is deciding whether or not you're gonna keep doubles. In this case, I have 5 sets of this and I just am not using them. So I'm going to keep 2 and let 3 go. Another company that I do really like is L Studio. They do a pretty good job. Freckled Fawn, it kind of depends on what it is. If it's just the title, I might be willing to keep it, even if it's a little bit thick. But this is not too bad. This one, again, is about an 1/8 inch thick. And I think that this particular phrase would be an easy one to use. So I'm gonna keep that one. But this one, for example, this Freckled Fawn, they're kind of like speech bubbles, but with arrows instead of the little other pointy bit. I'm not going to use these. I haven't used these. I have 2 sets of them and it just not really appeal to me. I'm going to let them go. This set is from Studio 40. It's fairly thin. I think it's definitely less than 1/8 of an inch. And I think these words would be really easy to use. They are a little bit difficult to read, but they're nice and thin and I think I could make them work. So I'm going to keep those. Here we've got some Heidi Swap sets. These are different sets. Let me see if I have any doubles of the Heidi Swap sets. That's another good way to kind of check yourself to see if you have doubles. I think that allows you to give a little bit more weight to each thing. If I have 3 of something, then it's not as important to me as if I only have the 1. So from what I can see, I have those 2 sets. Now I do have another container, so we may find doubles later, but for this, I have 2 different sets. They have just 4 in it each. That's not too bad. They're not super thick. I'm gonna keep those. These Heidi Swap ones, I have 2 sets of these, so I'm gonna keep 1 and let 1 go. This Hello Sunshine is quite thick. I'm gonna let that one go. Which is funny because I love that phrase and I've gotten rid of 3 now that say it. This one we've got Simply Today, Memory Noted, and then Epic, Adventure, Awesome, and a word I cannot Keen, maybe? And I'm not a huge fan of this one, partially because of the green and partially because the way that these words are written is very strange. It's kind of hard to read. I'm gonna keep this one and get rid of that one. This Freckled Fawn set I got as part of a kit. I was on their design team for a while. It's a little bit too thick for what I would want to use it for, so I'm gonna let it go. I have 2 sets. I think these are the same. It says, if this is the brand name On Our Way from Evilicious, I think it's the same. And because I have 2, I'm going to keep one and let one go. They're not super thick. A couple of these might be too thick and I may pull them out later, but for right now, for keeping it quick and easy and simple, I'm going to split them up. So these, I believe, are from, this one says Lucky Dip. And I had a similar set like this that I'm trying to remember the name of the company and I can't off the top of my head, but they have a similar type of thing and I just pulled them out of a container like this. So there was a lot of doubles and things like that, and they say things like forever and love, and it's very romantic themed, which is no longer something that I have a need for in my life. And so I'm going to let this set go. Again, I have used a lot of those. Those are a lot of repeats, and those are what's left over. So I'm okay with letting those go. This set from Lucky Dip, I like that these are quite a bit thinner and they're quite a bit smaller. They'll be easier to use. I'm gonna keep that one. These are left over from one of those packs in there. So this one is Lucky, but it's broken. So I'm gonna let it go. This one is Fancy, but it's not broken. So we're gonna keep that one. These 2 are from Freckled Fawn, and these are leftovers from kits. So there's only just a few bits and pieces left, and they are quite thick. I'm gonna let these 2 go. And these are some alphas from Freckled Fawn that are a little bit on the thin side, and also I just really enjoy them. So I'm gonna keep these. So from what I started with in that one container, okay, we're getting rid of about 60% and keeping 40%. I'm okay with that. That works for me. I think this is much more usable amount and they're much more usable options for me. And so that's what I'm going to do with the rest of my wood veneer. And then I will show you at the end what I end up keeping and getting rid of. But first, let me show you the cork. Okay, so as you saw before, I don't have a ton of cork. It wasn't something that I got quite as interested in as I did with wood veneer, but this is a little different situation. Again, I don't have a ton, so I don't feel the need to just like clean it out. There is some differences between cork and wood veneer, one being that cork has a little bit more give to it. It's not as, hard. It's not as unforgiving as wood veneer can be. And so I'm a little bit more willing to hold on to cork. Now, one of the things that I did do with cork was I fell in love with the concept of it and bought some of these sheets. So cork, just plain cork sheets that I can cut out into different shapes and things with my die cutting machine. And I really want to do that. I'm excited for that. Now that I have found these, and remember I have them, I intend to use them for that process. So I do intend to keep those. Now, looking through here though, I am noticing some sets here that I've had for a very long time and just have never reached for. And so I'm gonna give those a quick look. So I got these ones from Redefined Creative, and they're quite thick, and I think I'm gonna let those go. So put the keep pile back where it was so my brain remembers. If I keep moving the keep pile around, I'll forget where it is. And I'll start putting the wrong things on the wrong side. Now these ones, I'm not sure what the brand name was of this, but it's a couple of cork sheets, a lot of large cork numbers, a few houses. I think it's a mix of things actually, but most of these are quite thick except for the cork sheets. So let me have a look. I think this was left over from a pink paisley collection that I've had for ages, and I'm perfectly fine with getting rid of that. These little houses are super thin. I think those would be easy to use, so I'm gonna keep those. And then I have a couple of larger pieces. Now, this little cloud is kind of fun, but it is rather thick. So I'm thinking to let go of these numbers. I'm not really a big number person. It's not really something I reach for very often. Okay with letting that go. And then these cork sheets can just be added to my other collection of cork sheets, which honestly may be where they came from in the first place. I probably pulled them out for a project and then didn't end up using them. So keep and goodbye. These ones are from Studio Calico. They're adhesive and they don't look super thick. And I think I could use them fairly easily. So we're gonna keep those. These are probably also Studio Calico, maybe? I don't know, they look similar. These ones are from Freckled Fawn. Here's another set from 7 Paper. I don't need two. One keep, one go. And these arrows. So these arrows were part of a grab bag at one point. And I have 2 of the silver and kind of 2.5 of the silver. And since I have doubles, I'm gonna let one stay and one go. And there's not much left here. I'll let those stay. These are very pumpkin and fall themed. I do like the leaves, but I've never reached for them. So I'm gonna go ahead and let those go and I'll keep the gold arrows, so kind of evening it out a little bit for myself. These close to my heart ones I actually really like. I just forget that I have them. So I'm gonna keep these ones, but I am going to make a concerted effort to reach for them because they are quite pretty, have some nice little details to them. And this piece is a part of that set. It just came loose. I didn't put it away. So keep, and then we've got this little word phrase, a good read. I think I can keep that one as well. So for the cork, quick and easy, I got rid of about, looks like, I'm not gonna say 40% because that's a lot of cork here in these stacks, but I do think I did pretty well with the pre-made, pre-packaged stuff. That one's a little bit closer to 50-50, and I'm happy with that. So that is my cork separated, getting rid of and keeping. Now let me show you how I did overall with the wood veneer. So what I ended up keeping fit into one of the 2 containers that I had previous. So I've definitely cut it in half at least. I think I've actually pulled probably 70% of what I had out. I don't think that I'm going to use this stuff. This is just the right amount that I have some things to pick from if I get the urge to play with wood veneer, maybe even not on a layout, maybe on a different project. And so I'm happy keeping just this amount. Now I did show you in my budget scrapbooking series that you can make faux wood veneer. That is something that I'm probably going to be doing more of in the future. But for now, I'm really happy to just kind of minimize down to what I think I will use. And all of this will be donated to some schools in the area, as well as some craft groups that meet in this area, because there's a lot more going on here. And so I'm going to be donating all of this to them, so it will still get used. It's not getting wasted, and I'm very, very happy to see my wood veneer supply going down to a manageable size. Up next week, we will have some more 3D embellishments to go through, and then some what I call scattering pieces, or some little tiny things like enamel dots and sequins and all that good stuff. So that's another episode you have to look forward to. And the very last episode is going to be talking about going through your collections. Expect that one to be a longer one. I have a lot of collections to go through. And for me, the biggest thing with collections is it just takes so much time, which is why I pushed it off to the very end. If you have any questions, please put them down below. And until next time, bye y'all.